All right, good day. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're watching it live, I want to welcome you here today for this edition of Scale Up Business Performance System. My name is Laurie McNaughton, and I am your Scaling Up Business Coach. I want to thank you. I see there's several people here today, so I'm really excited by that. And my goal here is to give it 100% so that you get 100% out of this. The thing I want you to make clear is get your pens and papers out, turn off your phones, turn off any other distractions. I'm going to be going lightning fast. And so you're going to want to jot as much information as you possibly can down so that you get maximum value out of today. So, thriving in today's business world, I'm going to be talking about proven strategies for success. So, over 2 decades, I've been doing this kind of work and I see what works and what doesn't work. I see the challenges that business owners face and the solutions to those challenges. I'm going to talk about them in as broad as also a succinct way as I possibly can so that you, again, can implement some of the ideas that you come up with today and put them into your business right today, right now. Okay, let's move along. So, why Laurie McNaughton, you want to ask? Okay, so first of all, I'm not going to read off what's in here. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. Uh, I grew up in a small town, Saskatchewan, Alberta. Well, right in the Saskatchewan-Alberta border, went right through the middle of the town. And I struggled throughout school. After learning, I understood that I've had a learning disability, slight dyslexia, which caused ADHD, so attention deficit disorder, which made it very difficult for me to focus while I was in school. And of course, I really struggled throughout school, just, trying to get by, trying to fit in. Grade seven, I actually flunked, failed the whole year. So I had to repeat grade seven. One of my worst classes was math. And I'm going to make a point of this is so I barely squeaked by the second year with something like a 52 or 53% average. And then it went into grade eight and it went into a grade eight math teacher who was brilliant. His name was Leo Wartz. And he taught in a way that made me understand and literally changed my beliefs about myself in one semester, 1 year. I started off the first test. I got 93% correct. And then I ended up with an 82% average for the year. What that told me was because prior to that, I was starting to think that maybe I just wasn't really all that smart. And I realized, and looking back on that, now it didn't just flip my switch and all of a sudden I became brilliant because all the other teachers taught in the old kind of school way. I still didn't get it, so I struggled throughout school. And in fact, I'm sure that if they had an award in high school for the person who's least likely to succeed, I would have been a contender. I'm pretty sure I would have been. I again struggled. I wasn't a good employee. If you are employing people, I'd be one of those people that you wished you didn't employ. Uh, and all just because of where I was at mentally and emotionally in my life at that particular time. And then when I got to my mid-20s, I remember waking up specifically. It was like 2 in the afternoon because I'd been up all night long, which was something that I did frequently with my buddies. And I said to myself, I can't do this anymore. There has to be more to life than this, because I just can't do it anymore. And it was shortly after that that I moved away, came to the beautiful city of Edmonton, where I've made my home ever since. And I read my first personal development book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And in that book, he talked about the mind can't tell the difference between something that was vividly imagined and something that actually happened. You think about sports figures, you hear it all the time where they, visualize making the shots or visualizing making the hit or visualize the golf ball flying in the flight, all that kind of stuff. Well, we can do that in our own lives. And I really started to practice this when I joined Toastmasters because I would visualize people standing up and giving me a standing ovation because I had to get past the fear of the whole thing. Um, and so I changed my experience for that because up until then, my only two experiences with public speaking caused me to go into panic mode. And I don't know if any of you have ever experienced being in a panic mode, but it is not a pleasant experience to say the least. But anyways, as you can see, if you happen to look at this long list of stuff that I did after I went to school because again, I don't think well, I mean, I guess I learned something while I was in school. I certainly hope I did. But I learned more about life, more about how to apply myself, more about how to get the best out of myself and how to become the best that I could be after that. And when I moved to Edmonton, I became a great employee with the oil field supply company. And then I went on to outside sales with two different companies over a 15-year period of time and became number one sales person in both of those companies. And then looking for a challenge, looking for excitement, looking for something that was going to make me grow and excel and be the person that I wanted to become. I joined a international business coaching organization, which really was the foundation of business coaching at the time. It really I hadn't even heard of it until that time. And certainly that was part of their nomenclature was, they were the founders of business coaching. And I was with them for 15 years and I was in the top 10% of coaches for several of those years. There was like a thousand of us, sorry. So I was in the top 100 of 1,000 coaches for several of those years. I was an award-winning coach. You can see some of the awards over here. Um, and literally over 2 decades now, I've been working with business owners and their teams to, maximize their potential so that the business owner can get control of the business, free up a bunch of their time, make more money, have more fun, have more life, which is why I got into this business is I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And 15 years of traveling up and down the roads of Alberta, talking to, because I was a B2B guy, talking to small business owners and seeing the struggles that they went through on any given day and seeing them come and go and just understanding the challenges they're going. And when I came across this business coaching opportunity, I realized two really cool things is that they're going to teach me, because I was thinking about getting into business for myself at the time. They're going to teach me how to be a really great business person, and I'm going to teach other people. I'm going to mentor other people, and I'm going to coach them, which is something that really, really spoke to me in the heart. And so, why is this all important? Well, first of all, you can't tell me it can't be done. You can't, because if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I'm going to talk a lot about people and a lot about mindset in this first part of this presentation because it's so very important. The difference between success and failure doesn't reside out there, it resides right in here. So we're going to talk in depth about that. So our coaching philosophy here is great companies focus on two things that lead to a healthy bottom line, and that is becoming the provider of choice and the employer of choice. To me, it's always, always, always about the people. And if you just stop and think and let that settle in for a second, you're the provider of choice. So people are seeking you out to provide whatever it is that you provide, whether it's a product or service or whatever it might be. And you're the employer of choice. So people are searching out to want to work for your company because they hear so many great things about it. So where does this all start? It starts with a mindset. Now, this graphic comes from Carol Dweck. She's written several books on mindset. Pick any one of them and read them. They're all good. But you want to adopt a growth mindset. You want to get away from a fixed mindset. And the fixed mindset really kind of just says, failure is the limit of my abilities. So, I'm limited. This is just who I am. Or, I'm either good at something or I'm not good at it. It's just that's how it is. Or, I don't really like to be challenged. Or I can either do it or I can't do it and I give up when I'm frustrated. So those are all fixed mindset thinking. We want to get our brains out of that fixed mindset and into the growth mindset. So this last one I want to just point out. So the fixed mindset is I stick to what I know. Nothing is going to hinder your growth, both personally, professionally, as if you think that you're just going to stick to what you know, because what you know is creating what you have. So let's get over to the growth mindset. So I love the first one right out of the gate is failure is an opportunity to grow. I can't tell you how many times I've heard speakers talk about, I've succeeded more than others have because I'm willing to fail more than others are. Most people don't even want to fail once. let alone twice, three times, four times, five times. I've had multiple failures in my life, and yet I've persevered. I remember my first year in coaching. I went from making 75, $80,000 a year uh, to $30,000 a year that first year in 2004. And man, that was a wake up call. But I went from 30 to 80 to 150 to 230, 240, 250, and I maintained a high level for the time that I was with this organization. So failure is an opportunity to grow. And, I can learn to do anything I want. Just think about that for a second. Literally, if you really, 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 really want to do something, you can learn how to do it. Challenges help me grow. Listen, I had a major challenge happen to me just prior to COVID because I had somebody reach out to me with this grandiose business plan, somebody that I knew and I trusted, shouldn't have. Um, all of that aside, got into business with this person, realized that he had fed me a whole pile of uh, animal dung, if I could put it that way. And I realized that, I can't rely on anything that he said he was going to bring to the table in order to succeed at this. So I'm going to have to step up to the plate. And we were doing really actually kind of well. When I say kind of well, we were getting to the point where we were making a little bit of money. If I hadn't been paying him any money, we would have been making money. But then COVID hit and, just a series of things like really just shut us down for 2 years. And my lease was coming up in my office, and I thought, do I redo this and start really from scratch when we're still, I don't even know what's going to happen yet? So I chose to just shut it down and close it down. That was a big, in my mind, failure, which made me struggle mentally and emotionally for at least a year. But I was able to just say perseverance and say, listen, you've done it before, you can do it again. So there's a challenge that has made me grow to become the coach that you might need in your business to help you get to where you want to be. So let's keep moving along. So this I learned when I went to Tony Robbins Mastery University in Hawaii, Maui, actually. And he had these two big pillars on the stage, and one of them said pain, which was these are the two motivating factors in people's lives. One is pain. And so people either move away from pain, so they go, geez, I can't pay my mortgage, or I'm going to struggle to pay my mortgage. Or, gee, I'm neglecting my spouse. I better do something about that. Or any number of things that cause you to pain. And until that pain gets so acute, you don't move forward. So, in other words, you're more reactive to things. It's, oh, geez, this is not going well. I better do something about it. Oh, this is not working. I better do something about it, which is what, listen, you know, take a look, be honest with yourself. Number one thing here is to be honest with yourself, is to look in the mirror and say, am I being reactive here? Am I always, fixing problems? Am I a firefighter? Or am I a business builder? So the other pillar was pleasure. So moving towards pleasure, not just moving away from pain, because what happens when you're out of pain? That's right. The motivation is gone. So you got to be proactive about building your business, proactive about building the team, proactive about building the systems and processes that make a successful business. And it right smack dab in the middle is what we call the danger zone. So that's your comfort zone. And this is where so many businesses fall off the rail as they get comfortable. Things are going good. I think I can take my foot off the gas here a bit. Instead of, I need to reevaluate. I need to look at leveraging myself differently. I need to, how do I do this better? How do we do this better? How do I focus my attention? I'm going to talk about that on the right things. So if you're a reactive, moving away from pain kind of guy, and we're going to talk about how you get out of that, start thinking today, right now. In fact, write this down on your paper. I am going to create this vision, this what it is that makes my life pleasurable. Or, I want to have a big home with a no mortgage. I want to have a, multiple cars or motorcycles or snowmobiles, or I want to travel, or I want to have vacation, whatever that might be for you, so that you're moving towards that versus, oh, geez, I'm going to go broke if I don't do something, or I'm not going to pay my mortgage if I don't do something. So become very proactive. So again, I told you I'm going to talk about mindset here a lot because this is so very, very important. And that is, if you look at an iceberg, right? Uh, what part of the iceberg sunk the Titanic? The part that was above the water or below the water? For those of you who might not know the story of the Titanic, or you not sure, it was the iceberg that was below the waterline because they actually thought they were going to go by it, but it just ripped a hole in the hull as they went by the part of the iceberg that's under the water. And the reason is 90% of an iceberg is below the waterline. So you and your business is what we see, how you act, how you behave, the decisions you make. And I'm going to talk about this in depth more about your team later. Um, but this is what we see. But what is running this business is the programs, your programs that you run, your habits, your way of doing things, is, showing up above the waterline. And that's how your business runs. So you got to think about this all the time. If something isn't functioning the way that you want it to in your business, what's the program that you need to change? What's the system you need to put in? What's the process? Who do I need to hire? Who do I need to whatever? Okay. So how do you start this whole thing and getting your brain into the right frame of mind? Create yourself a daily ritual. So here's what I do. 10 minutes of mindfulness. Now, mindfulness can be meditation. It's just to sit quietly, close your eyes, tune out, turn everything off just for 10 minutes and focus on the present moment. Focus on, nothing. If you and for those of you, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, I can't meditate because I can't stop myself thinking. It takes practice. If you're a gym rat, you didn't go to the gym one day and you got a great body, a great physique. If you're a dancer, you didn't go to a dancing class once and all of a sudden you're a great dancer. Um, it takes practice. And even today, somebody who's I want to say a religious type meditator, I'll find myself thinking about something in the middle of a meditation, but I don't get mad. All I say is just like, okay, come back, get back to the present moment, focus on the nothingness, focus on the blackness. So make it a practice. Don't just try it, do it. Say, I'm going to do every day 10 minutes. That's it. Okay, so three things that you're grateful for. If you can't find something that you're grateful for, you're you got blinders on. You're not listening. You're not watching. There's, um, sorry, I just want to move my mic over here closer. I just realized it's far away. I hope everybody could hear that first part. Anyway, three things that it could be like, you know what? Every day I get to drink clean water. Every night I sleep in a warm, comfortable bed with a soft pillow. every every day I don't go hungry. Those are three things that I am very grateful for. I don't have any, well, that I'm aware of, disabilities, mental, emotional. Maybe I do. Maybe I'm not being honest with myself about that. But still, compared to some people, I mean, you look it breaks my heart, and I know not everybody feels the same way about this, but when I see a homeless person, it just breaks my heart because I realized, going back to when I was in high school, man, I was just maybe a year away from, I don't know, because I can't go back and change that, but I wasn't very far away from becoming I don't know how to explain it. I don't even want to say the word, so I'm going to be careful. So three things I want to accomplish today. So just what are those three things that I want to accomplish? So, for me today, I wanted to redo the whole presentation here. And then I also wanted to run a reel. So I'm going to record a reel after this. And I'm also going to, this is being recorded as we speak so that I can post this on YouTube. And I'm also going to look. So I'm writing a book. So I'm looking at editing this book. So I need to reread it again. And then I want to use three positive affirmations. I'm going to be focused, I'm going to be calm, and I'm going to have high energy in my presentation today. So that's part of how you get your mindset. Now let's talk about a little bit how this all works from a mental standpoint. So your thoughts create feelings. Now just think about this for a second. When you get angry, was it a thought that happened first, or did the anger happen first? So you have a thought, something makes you angry, and so you feel this anger in your body. So then your thoughts revert back to what's making you angry, and it starts to cycle. And now you're going to take some action, which if you're in anger, here's the thing. I'd say if you're a business owner and you're at work and you're angry about something, go for a coffee break and then settle yourself down because you might not like the result that you get. So in this case, your thoughts lead to your feelings, lead to your actions, lead to the results, which leads to the success or not success that you're feeling in your business. So if you have the same thoughts, same feelings, and same actions, it's gonna be business as usual, and you're gonna feel stuck. You're gonna feel maybe depressed. You're gonna maybe feel anxious. You're going to feel dread. I don't know. There's any number of different adjectives that you could use that you might be feeling. So if you want something new, now you need to create new thoughts, which will create new feelings, which will create new actions, and you end up with a new business. And I'm going to talk about those new thoughts, how to create some of those new thoughts simply by really getting clear on why it is that you're doing what you're doing. Why did you start this business? Who is it important to? Why is it important to you? Why is it important to the people who work for you? Why is it important to the people who you serve? All these things, pardon me. Um, because when you create this new picture, you're going to have different feelings, you're going to take different actions, and ultimately you'll end up with a different business. Now, the more you work on the thoughts and feelings and actions, the bigger the change you're going to see in your business. The less you work on your thoughts, feelings, and actions, the less you're going to experience. Tony Robbins would say it this way. He said, if you take little action, you're going to get no result. If you take a little bit of action, you're going to get not much at all. So you got to take massive action because when you take massive action, things really change. And when you do that, you start feeling energized and inspired. One of the things that I know about myself is that keeps me in a really positive frame of mind is creating. I love creating content because that content keeps me in the present moment, working on something that I know is not only valuable for me, but it's also valuable for those people that I serve. And so I feel energized and I feel inspired by that. So B, work on those new thoughts and creating new feelings. Do take those new actions. Guess what? You get to have new results. Now, this formula, B times do equals have. You can reverse engineer this and sit down, and I talked about this in the slide before. What is it that you really want to have? What's important to you? What do you need to do in order to have that? But more importantly, who do you need to be? Who are you going to become in order to do those things and have those things? So you might need to become a better leader, a better communicator, more organized, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that you can have what you want to have, which if you own a business, here's the thing, it should be a profitable business that grows and thrives even when you're not there. Okay, so let's keep moving along. So this formula, D times V plus FS is greater than R. So dissatisfaction times vision plus first steps overcomes your resistance to change because everybody has some resistance to change. So how do you feel when you think about your old business? So that's the dissatisfaction. What are you dissatisfied with in your business? And don't get stuck with this because it's familiar, it's predictable, and it's what you know. So really get clear. I'm not satisfied with how much I'm working. I'm not satisfied with how much money I'm earning. I'm not satisfied with the team that I have. I'm not, and it's not necessarily meaning you need to throw the team out. Maybe you need to become a better leader and communicator. But the important thing is to understand what am I not, or pardon me, what am I dissatisfied with? And then create a bigger gap between that and this new business, which is the vision of what you would really like it to be like. I want to be working 4 days a week, 3 days, whatever that is for you. I want to be able to take weekends off. I want to take a month or two vacation every year. Or maybe you go, I want to open up multiple locations in multiple cities, but I still only want to work 4 or 5 days a week. So you drive this gap between your dissatisfaction and your vision so that you start to feel it. And then you start to ask yourself, well, if I just stay with where I'm at, who is that going to affect? Who's it going to hurt? How am I going to feel about it? So you got to get into this new place. So I just say, get comfortable with being uncomfortable because when you're trying new things, you're going to be uncomfortable, which is going to cause you to feel fear, and fear creates uncertainty and doubt. Now, fear creates uncertainty and doubt. But what is fear? It's false expectations appearing real because it's not happened. You're thinking in your brain and then you're putting it out into the universe or putting it out into your future based on false expectations appearing real. I mean, how many times have you thought something bad was going to happen and it didn't happen? Come on, be honest. I know I have. So fear creates uncertainty and doubt, which is going to get you stuck. So know this, you're in your comfort zone. Get into the fear zone. So don't be afraid to feel uncomfortable. Start learning. As you can see by my bookshelf behind me here, there's a lot of books. Now, I put some of these out here, like Awaken the Giant Within and Unlimited Power. Read those books back in the early 90s. Bought Tony Robbins' 30 Days on Personal Power because I was up late one night and it came on with an infomercial. Anyway, I got into the learning zone, which got me into the growth zone. And that's where we need to be. Okay. So I wanted to make this point because I think it's so, so important for everybody. Is that nothing in life has any meaning except for the meaning that you give it. So circumstance, they're not negative or positive. Circumstances are really neutral. It's our thinking, it's our mental state and our perspective that makes the circumstances positive or negative. And I need to, for next time, remind myself where this quote comes from because it's not something I came up with. But I put this image in here, and I do want to, give respect to whoever created this because I think it was, it's right on the edge of my tongue, but it's not coming to me. I put this image in here because this image for some people would be like if they were to look out their window and see this, they might be extremely frightened by it. Others might be in awe of it. Some would see the beauty of it. Some would see the power of it. So it's really an image that can reflects a lot of different perspectives. And that's how we are with our entire lives. Somebody does something, uh, we give it the meaning. Something happens, we give it the meaning. So understand that point. So I've been talking a lot about mindset. Why have I been talking about mindset? Because it's the difference between success and failure. I already talked that out. I talked about that earlier in the presentation. That success is not out there. It's right here in this, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches of gray matter that resides inside our heads. Okay, so let's talk about how do we fix this? And it all starts right here. This is the line of choice. And above the line, we have responsible, accountable, and ownership. That's where it all begins. Know this right now. Write this down and pin this up someplace. There's more to it, so you just jot in your notes. If this is to be, it's up to me. So it's my ship. I own it. Its success or failure is going to be on me. It's not going to be on my team. It's not going to be on the economy. It's not going to be on my customers. It's not going to be on, it's going, or the government, because we love to blame the government for everything. It's going to be up to me. I take ownership. I'm going to hold myself accountable and I'm going to be responsible. I am not going to blame. I am not going to make excuses and I'm not going to go into denial. Um, you know, Funny because when I show this and I first start start talking to business owners on this philosophy, this idea, they are often thinking of their team. But here's the thing, it begins at home. It begins at home. If you have a team that blames other people, makes excuses, or they live in denial, I'm sorry, my friend, but that's where you are because they don't see anything different. So start with yourself. Look in the mirror. How do I make sure that I stay above this line? Because above the line, there's a solution to every problem that you have. Below the line, there's a problem for every solution that you have. Okay, so how do I define a successful business? I say it is highly profitable and it grows and thrives even when you are not there. And I can tell you over a couple decades of doing this kind of work, a lot of business owners felt like working 6, 7 days a week, all that kind of thing, and they think this thing won't even survive if I'm gone. And then we put systems and processes in place. We train their team. We get them more accountable. We hire some better people. We let go of the people who refuse to change. And then this person goes away for vacation. And they come back and they go, "What? You did what? You were able to do this?" Like it ran better while they were gone. So that's a fact. That's a fact. Too often, unfortunately, for some of you, it's too often this is a true thing. You are the bottleneck inside your company. Okay, so let's keep moving around. This is an important thing is you need to understand the numbers in your business, whether that's your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet, your cash flow, your leads, your conversion rate, your average dollar sale, your number of transactions, whether they're going up or down, all that kind of stuff. You need to know your numbers because if you don't measure it, you cannot make improvements. If you don't know what your conversion rate is, how can you make an improvement? You can do something different, but how would you know if it was better or worse? So you must understand your numbers by measuring, and we're going to talk about that a little bit farther into the presentation. So getting really clear again here. A successful business is a series of systems and processes and tools and people. Those are the really fundamental pieces of a business. If you have good systems and processes and you have all the right tools and you got the right people, it's hard to screw that up. Now, I know some people have, but it is hard to screw that up. And if you screwed it up, look in the mirror, don't look outside. So, management, team, planning, financials, marketing, time, how you use your time, sales, systems. These are all part of successful business. And you, as the owner of the company, need to communicate that and you need to know, show leadership for that. And I say this because, if you're somebody who's just starting out, maybe you're an electrical contractor and you're just starting out your own electrician's company or plumbing or drywall or insulation or roofing or whatever it might be. Understand this, you need to be the leader that your people need you to be in order for you to grow. They're looking to you for guidance. This is above and below the line. So if you notice that people are below the line, they're looking at you for guidance. Okay. So why won't your business scale? Well, number one, you focus on revenue and not profit. Uh, Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. Remember that. Write that down. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. Focus on profit, making sure that you're maximizing the profit all the time. We're going to talk about some ways that you can do that later in the presentation. Your operations won't scale because you don't have the right systems and processes. None of it's documented. It all resides inside your head. You don't invest in hiring the right people. You need a salesperson and somebody says, "Hey, I know somebody whose uncle's aunt's daughter's son is out of work." That doesn't make him a good salesperson. Or he knows your industry. That doesn't make him a good salesperson. Salespeople are not a dime a dozen. Why does a good salesperson make so much money? Because they're the thing that drives the commerce in your business. Okay. Lack of strategic partnerships. So form strategic partnerships. If you're a plumber, form a strategic partnership with an electrician, a roofing company, a siding company, uh, um, what's the word I'm looking for when we're talking about your yard? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. It'll come to me. Um, it doesn't matter. Form strategic partnerships with these people. I talked about this already. You're reactive versus proactive. You got to get out of being reactive. You got to stop being a firefighter and start being a business builder. And number six, you fear raising your prices. Know this, people will pay more for value all the time. And people that work with me, they get to see the don't discount your prices because they see what happens, how much more business you need to get if you discount your prices than if you raise your prices, you need a lot less business. So I want to do less business with less people and make more profit because I add more value. Does that make sense? Pardon me. Okay. So three systems that every business it needs. It needs a vision and it needs your team aligned with that vision. You need accountable leadership. I already talked about that. And you need to have scalable systems and processes because this is what creates order out of chaos. So actually, I'm going to move right by this slide because it's not that important and I should have talked about it earlier now that I think about it. Um, actually, you know what? I'm going to go back. What the heck? What you can expect to get out of this presentation is a whole lot of BFOs, blinding flashes of the obvious. Because here's the thing. I know that many of you know what you should be doing, but if you go back to some of those slides I talked about earlier, you're not doing it because it creates fear, and fear creates what? Doubt. So the BFOs are like, okay, yeah, I know this is what I should be doing, but I'm not doing it. Pardon me. And this is why coaching is so powerful because I'm your accountability partner. I'm that guy that says, sorry, ah, I hit the wrong button there. I'm that guy that you meet with once a week and we talk about getting things done. And I don't take blaming and I don't let people make excuses and I don't let them deny. Those are all valuable lessons. And I got a lesson from one of my managers back in the early 90s, where I had made a big mistake. And, uh, there's a bunch of reasons why it happened, but my manager came down to talk to me and asked me about it. And, sort of the first thing what, most people would do was make some kind of excuse. And he said, Laurie, I don't want to hear any excuses. I just want to hear how you're going to make sure it never happens again. So I said, this is what I'll do. And he said, bingo, that's all I want to know. That's what people want. That's what people pay good money for. So the vision is, really why you started your business. And I'm assuming that you wanted to build something you could be proud of. I know that's what I want to do. I want to be proud of the work that I've done. I wanted to create predictable profits. I want to have a team around me that takes care of the things that I don't want to take care of, whether that's outsourced or somebody that actually functioning works for me. I want to have independence, so I want to have my freedom, and I want to have personal. I want to have personal time. Okay, so let's talk about time. Time will be a direct reflection of the success that you have in your business. So I'm going to tie this to the 80-20 rule. For those of you who don't know about the 80-20 rule, it's 20% of what you do gives you the 80% of the results that you get. So you think, okay, that's interesting. So 20% of what I do creates a lot of my either success or result that I'm getting. So flip that over now. That means that 80% of what you're doing only gives you 20%. Let that land in your lap just for a second. How many of you are working on that 80% that only gives you the 20? You want success? Focus on the 20. Outsource the 80 or delegate the 80 or stop doing part of the 80 because some of it I know is a complete waste of time. Okay, so the time target. This is just to help illustrate, where you need to be focusing your time and where you can find it. So in the outside ring, we find things that are not urgent and they're not important, and those are distractions. In this inside ring, we find things that are urgent but they're not important. And those are delusional activities. And so we need to identify those because that's where we're going to get the vast majority of our time to be able to focus in on working on our business rather than in our business. So we got to stop doing that delusional stuff, which is part of the 80%. So in the inside ring, we got things that are urgent and important. So those are the day-to-day activities that you need to be involved in your business. And those will change and evolve from when you start. If you're a one or two or three or five or 10-man team, that will change as your business grows. So in the middle, we have things that are not urgent, but important. And that's a lot of what I'm talking about here today. Those things that are vitally important to the success of your business. And I can tell you from my own personal experience interviewing a lot of business owners over the past 2 decades that, especially in the small business sector, so there's small, medium-sized businesses, and really small, medium-sized goes from zero to $100 million. But my primary focus is those people that are, doing 100, 200,000 all the way up to about 10 million, 20. I've worked with companies that do 30 and 40, 50 million, but I'm looking at working with them doing different things like more specifically leadership and communication. But for you small guys, small companies, you need to get your systems and processes in place. And that's the zone. That's where you need to be working on. So 5% distraction, 50% is delusional activity, 50 to 60%. So that's where we're going to get the most of the time to get you working in that zone so that you're spending way more than 10% of your time in there. And again, I would say, here's the thing, block off 4 to 5 hours every week to work on your business. So if you're working, for instance, if you're working a 40-hour work week, block off that 4 to 5 or 50 or 60 hours. You're going to block off that 4 to 5 hours and say, I'm just going to work on the systems and processes and get those in place. Things will start changing. And I'll show you a little bit about that later in the presentation. So you got to understand that your business is made up of a series of systems and processes that are run by a team of people. So let's talk a little bit about team. Team stands for together, everyone achieves more. Together, everyone achieves more. So those people that are working for you, as your business grows and prospers. Now remember, if they're A players or even B players, if they're C's and D's, those D's, shuffle them out the door as fast as you can. Try to upgrade the C's to a D. If they don't upgrade, show them the door as well. Really reward those A players. And, they're going to want to make more money. They're going to have more benefits, all that kind of stuff. Because if you don't provide that, then they'll go someplace else. And I don't know about you, but if I have a really great team member, I don't want them going someplace else. I want them staying and helping me grow my business. So this comes from the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. Winning companies know how to get the right people on the bus. And they understand the cost of a bad hire. They understand that people that show up late all the time, or they're lazy, or they lie, that this is big trouble for any business. So, and I've got in here, hire for attitude first, and then aptitude secondly. Here's the thing. This survey was done, and actually it was done by Career Builder, and it's 41% of companies surveyed in that year that they did the survey said bad hire costs them $25,000. And 25% said a bad hire cost them 50,000. Now, there's a bunch of different relating factors with that, but one of them is lost productivity, because when you hire somebody, typically speaking, you're not going to get a lot of productivity out of them for the first 2, 3 months anyway. But if they're a dud, you don't get any productivity out of them for those 2 or 3 months. And then if you're mistaken enough not to fire them, then that lost productivity might go on for 9 months. It might be going on for a year. So that's a big expense to you. And then, of course, whatever you paid them, the morale on the other team members. Look, listen, A players want to hang around with A players. They don't want to hang around with C's and D's. And if Populate your company with C's and D's, those A's are going to be a threat to leave. And of course, any cost to hire them. Okay, so let's talk about people here for a second, because this is really, really important. And I'm going to go back to the iceberg identity, a little different illustration here. But when we look, and I want you to think about yourself, okay, the actions that you take, the behaviors that you have, and the decisions that you made. These are the things that we see above the waterline. So thinking about the people who work for you, the actions that they take, the behavior that they have, the decisions that they take are related to what's below the waterline, which is their skills. I mean, there's several other things here, but let's start with skills. The beautiful thing about skills is that if they have the right attitude, if they're really A player sort of attitude people, you can find somebody to teach them the skills they need to do in order, or need to have in order to do the work. Here's where it gets a little bit more difficult, and that is beliefs, because lots of people have beliefs that don't support them. I talked a little bit about that in the whole mindset part of things, right? And part of what I would say you as the leader of the company is to help them develop a winning mindset as well, changing their beliefs. Now, I want to, when I interview people, I want to ask them about things that are going to uncover things about what they believe. And ultimately, what I really want to understand is what do they believe is possible given the right tools to do the work. Because if it's just like I can figure anything out, then I'm thinking, okay, this is somebody that I want to talk to. But if there's somebody that kind of like blames other people, makes excuses, whatever the case may be, I want to be a little bit more careful at this particular point. Now, I also want to understand their values, but I also want everybody to understand my values. And that's why we have the vision and the mission and the core values. And they're talked about frequently in our companies because everybody has to understand that, things like honesty, integrity, hard work, teamwork, all that kind of stuff is a vital value for this company. And if you can't adhere to those values, then I'm sorry, you're going to have to find someplace else to work. So these skills, beliefs, and values create their identity. So how they see themselves. And again, this is, uh, you want to ask questions like, tell me more about yourself. What are some of the lessons that you learned in life? Tell me more about that. Drill down, go deeper so that you can hear what they actually believe about themselves and understand about what they see themselves as their identity. Because this is going to tell you whether or not this is somebody that you can mold into a player if they're not already an A player. So, who do they think they and feel they are? Now, here's the other thing that you have a massive control over, and that's the environment. What is the environment? Is your environment chaotic? Chaotic? Is your environment structured? I think of somebody. This is what I called on. This was back when I was still doing B2B sales, and I went into a shop that was they did heavy duty mechanic stuff in there. And when I was sitting there talking to the owner, he was talking about how you know, I mean, he was talking things like what he hated about his business, and one of them was is that everybody always wanted to discount him, cheaper prices, cheaper prices. And I looked around his, I don't want to call it a showroom because it wasn't a show. I mean, first of all, his office was a mess, but then out in that area where your customers would come in, there was just engine parts, transmission parts, just stuff laying all over. You look in the shop, it's just, okay, this looks like it should be a discount service center because it's so unorganized. That's the environment. The other thing that you can do to really change the environment is bring people in to speak to your team on different topics, whether that's finances, whether that's insurance, whether I don't know what it is, but also about somebody like myself who's going to come in and really functionally change the way people believe about what's possible in their lives. And you can go on my um, website, our website, and go to testimonials, and you'll see what some of the other people that I've done workshops for said about the workshops that I did with him. It changes the environment. Get some books or get some CDs. Like talk about things that help people grow. That's all part of your environment. Okay, let's keep moving. I'm getting closer to the hour. I changed this whole thing this morning, so forgive me if I go a little bit longer. So people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. This is really important thing to understand. People quit because of the way that you treated them, the way that you made them feel, all that kind of stuff. So what do people really want? They want a career path that aligns with their goals. They want to feel stable. They don't want to feel like the rug's going to be pulled out from under them at any given time. They want to feel appreciated for their work. And if you want people to work harder, appreciate them more. Communication, they want to be in that loop of communication so that they know what's going on. They want to have fun. And then number six, this is fairly compensated. And this comes from a Gallup poll that was done of over a million. It's right here. Gallup, more than a million US employees. Not fairly compensated was number six. It's not number one, although people say, I quit because I can make more money. They didn't quit because they could make more money. They quit because of how you made them feel and how you treated them, and they felt like there was, or they didn't have a career path aligned with their goals, or they didn't feel stable, they didn't feel appreciated. They were outside the communication link, and they weren't having any fun. That's why they quit, but they blamed it on the money. So at the end of the day, people won't remember what you said or did. They'll remember how you made them feel. Just let that sink in just for a second. Make people feel appreciated, and they will step up to the plate for you. Okay, so let's keep moving along. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to trim some of this out to make sure that it fits into the 45-minute time period. I apologize. I hope you can stick around. So systemize the routine things in your business and document it, and then create training around it, and then train until people can do it in their sleep. If you look at this boat, there's more than a dozen people on this boat. They're in a sailboat race. The difference between first and second place is seconds, if not, or minutes, if not seconds. And it relies on everybody doing their job at the right time. It doesn't rely on the captain of that boat running around telling people what to do all the time. Because if he had to do that, first of all, he'd probably fall overboard. But secondly, that people won't do anything until he's telling them what to do. Okay, so uh, I talked about this already. Create a clear vision, mission, and core values for your company. Align your team to shared goals. Uh, Create ownership and purpose across the whole organization. So how do we do that? Well, we start with an org chart that clearly defines everybody's role. You delegate outcomes, not tasks. You develop the leaders in the company, and you have accountability systems, which is your KPIs. You right here, standard operating procedures, KPIs, effective meeting rhythms. If we decide to work together, I'll share with you how I suggest you do it. How you do it is one thing, but I would say do it very close to how I suggest you do it, because it will make a massive difference in your business, and it will happen in a fairly short period of time. So systems really need to run without your daily input, and systems create a business that can do the impossible. That's what makes the impossible possible. Delegate, not abdicate. So abdication is dumping the task and then disappearing. It's handing something off without clarity, direction, or follow-up, and then being surprised when things go sideways on you. Delegation is strategic leadership skill. It's about assigning responsibility while maintaining accountability and giving someone authority to complete the task. But you stay involved enough to make sure that you support them and guide them so that you ensure that the outcome aligns with what you wanted. Okay, let's talk about how you make more profit in a company. I'm going to go quickly on this. It's just important that you understand the power of this formula. Everything in blue is an actionable item. Everything in red is a result of the action in blue. So in this instance, this company got 4,000 leads. They had a 25% conversion rate. They have 1,000 customers. They transact with them twice. They spent $100 when they did. They had $200,000 in revenue. They had 25% margins. So they had a $50,000 net profit. So now strategically, look at your business. Which one of these five can you most importantly affect? Now, here's the thing I would suggest. So number one is you want to work on profit margins. Make sure that you have a profitable model here, because if you just pour more business, more people, more customers into an unprofitable model, you'll just go broke faster. The next thing would be look at your conversion rate. I guess I no, look at your conversion rate. So again, if you're getting lots of leads, but you don't convert many of them, you need to know that so that you can work on, okay, so how do I become better at sales? So my conversion rate goes up. So you get a number of leads, you get a conversion, you get customers, they transact with you, they spend a certain amount of money, and you get profit from that. So look at which ones that you can have the most effective. I'm just going to show you the power of this formula just for a second. If you just increase what's in blue by 10%, so instead of 4,000, you got 4,400 leads. Instead of a 25% conversion rate, you got a 27.5, so you got 1,210 customers on average. Remember that everything's on average here. That's why it says 2.2. 2.2 transactions over whatever period of time that you measured this. And they spent $110 instead of just $100. What does that actually work out to? Well, works out to $292,820. And if you got better at buying, formed some buying groups, became more efficient, more productive, whatever that might be, got rid of some things that you didn't need, you increase your profit margin to 27.5. Now you made an extra $30,525. That's a 47% increase in revenue and a 61% increase in your profits. So let's just talk quickly about leverage. So productivity is really about maximum results in a minimal amount of time, and leverage is about maximum productivity in a minimal amount of effort. So I always think of it, leverage standpoint is like, how do I do more with less? So how do you do more with less? Well, you document your standard operating procedures. You leverage your money. You make sure that your business is as profitable as it can because money is a leverage tool. You get better at hiring and you train your people. You use technology. You get rid of the C's and D's. Now, C's and D's I'm talking about here could be C's and D's on your team, but it also could be C and D customers because some customers take up way too much time and because of that, they're not profitable. So the 5 ways, I just talked about the 5 ways in terms of, how you increase the profits. Leverage those things. Your marketing, make sure you're doing the best possible marketing. If you're marketing your business 4 different ways, make sure you're measuring it because one of those ways might be a bust and one of them might be a rock star, and you want to put all that money and effort into the rock star. Create videos for training people. Use the 80-20 rule. Make sure you're measuring your KPIs. Always be innovating. Use pictures. Customer experience is a huge leverage thing because people who have a great customer experience tell other people about it. And then outsource stuff that you don't need to be doing or delegate it to your team. So success really depends on what you focus in on. Focus on what you want, not what you don't want. So don't focus on any mistakes. Don't focus on that there's no good people out there. And don't focus on this idea that nobody can do it as good as you can. Focus on what you want. Set SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable with a result in a time frame. Planning, make sure that you do a plan, 90-day plans. And I help all my clients do 90-day plans because we only want to plan for 90 days. We want to set goals for a year, 3 years, 5 years, but we only want to do plans for 90 days because things change rapidly. Action. So action items, implementation. I can tell you from conversations with a lot of business owners that's one of the areas where they struggle is implementation. That's just an accountability. That's an above and below the line. That's a training thing. That's all of the stuff that we've already talked about. Analysis. So are you getting closer to your goals or are you getting farther away from your goals? Leadership. Inspire people, enroll them, hold them accountable to that common goal. And remember, team, together we can do anything. And then culture, open, honest, integrity. I have your back. So quickly, I'm almost done. 2 more slides. Aggregation of marginal gains. In the beginning, when you first start doing this, you're not going to see, boom, wow, I can't believe it. Things changed. Yesterday, I started this program with this coach, and today everything is like hunky-dory. That isn't the way it works. You won't see little or no change in that first month. stick with it 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8, 9 months, 10 months, 12 months, which is my typical average program. And your business starts to hit that tipping point where it just starts to go like this. It's just crazy. So, you can't get easily discouraged. That's one thing that I would tell everybody is don't get discouraged because just keep focused and focusing on what you want, making the changes, pivot, do whatever it is that you need to do. So if you're interested in building a high performance team, you want to free up your time, you want to drive profit in your company, you want to develop leadership at every level, you want to reduce your stress and the burnout factor, and you want to get accountability throughout your team and getting it done, then you might want to consider working a program with me. So just I'm not going to go down this too far because I'm right out of time. But what was your dream when you started this business? Really, what was it? Was it to work 50, 60, 70 hours a week, not have any vacation, miss out on having dinner with your family, miss out on kids' birthdays, miss out on sporting? Was that your dream when you started your business? I don't think so. So let's talk if you're up for the extraordinary and you really want to work on building a business that will scale up without you needing to be there all the time. It's a simple conversation. We'll book a 30-minute scale up strategy call. And that's just for me to really understand where you're at, understand your business, where you want it to be, what's holding you back. If I believe that we can work together I can work with you to solve that problem, and that's going to be a reciprocal thing. I feel good about you, you feel good about me. Then we'll book a complimentary coaching session where we'll get into a much deeper analysis of your business, where we'll really understand what the causes are, and then I'll talk about what the solutions are. And if you feel like you can do it on your own, listen, I am happy for you. I really am, because this is my little way of making a difference in the world. And what I do, listen, is not for everybody, but for those people it is for, it's literally life-changing. So if you're interested, uh, you can go into the chat box here and I put into the chat the link to book a meeting with me. If you're watching this on YouTube at a later date, I'll put the link in the description. You can book a 30-minute discovery call. And let's just start the process of figuring out if this is the right thing for you. And let's do something that's cool. Let's do something extraordinary. So again, my name is Laurie McNaughton, and I am your Scale Up Business Coach, and I appreciate you listening in today. And I hope one day to be part of the factor that helps you do something extraordinary with your business. Thanks, and have yourself a great day.